Welcome back to MMA Oddsbreaker today. This is Before the Bell with Nick Kalikas. I'm Frank Trigg. We're getting ready to talk about UFC Fight Night coming up on here. Saturday, September 30th in Newark, New Jersey, Johnson versus Bader. The UFC right now today, as of time of this recording, they're doing a big push in Albany, New York. I've seen a bunch of folks up there trying to get, MMA licensed in New York and legalized in New York. It just hasn't quite happened yet at the pro level. So obviously right now the fights are in Jersey, and Jersey's reaping all the benefits of having the fights there because it's so much money. The UFC brings in so much money to a local economy when they come in. Do you think New York is being stupid at this point for not, seeing as how it's the last state holding out?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I know it's the political problems that they got going on with the UFC, obviously, with the culinary unit. You and I were kind of briefly talking about it. It's ridiculous. At this point, I mean, 2016, the sport should be legalized everywhere, as popular as it is. So, honestly, it's really uncalled for at this point. I think it will pass. I mean, it has to, right? There's no question that at some point it has to get pushed through regardless of what's roadblocking it right now. But I'm glad that, it's getting support. A lot of people are bringing it to the attention of the right people, hopefully, and we see some action soon, I hope.
Yeah, we got to see a fight in Madison Square Garden as soon as possible. It makes no sense not to have one there. And let's not forget, being from Rochester, New York, born and raised, there's enough places to go to, not only in New York City, but you can go to Albany, you can go to Syracuse, you can go to Rochester, you can go to Buffalo. I mean, there's enough places that will hold 12 to 15,000 people within the state that they could do 2 or 3 fights there a year. In the Madison Square Garden venue, you put any one of the champs, I don't care what champ it is, any one of the champs, take Conor McGregor out of the equation because he's, a whole new media mogul to himself. But any one of the champs will sell out whatever arena they want to put in New York. They don't need like a Weidman who's a New York native or John Jones who's a New York native to be there to help sell it out. When I'm talking about champs, and you put John Jones who's not a champ right now, he'll still sell it out. And there's so many factors that can make. To me, it's just honestly, at the end of it, New York is being dumb. New York is dumb. It's a dumb state. It makes no sense not to have MMA in their state because you may not like the sport, you might find it violent, but the revenue alone should make you want to pay attention. The amount of money that comes in, I'm flying in. You're going to fly in. Like, how many people coming in from out of the state to spend money to watch these fights? It's ridiculous. I don't understand it, and it's kind of embarrassing to say I'm from the state that won't legalize it. It's, to be honest with you.
It really, you know what, it is embarrassing that on their end. I mean, they should look at the big picture, and they just don't see it. So it's stubbornness right now. That's all that is, right? I mean, it's uncalled for. So hopefully it does change soon. I thought it would be passed by now, honestly. I thought we'd get over the hump and we'd see some fights this year. And we might still, right, towards the end of the year, hopefully. So we'll see.
I'm hoping by summertime because I think the UFC can pull the trigger very, very quickly. Once it's approved, they can put something in right away. So I'm hoping by summertime, if it gets approved quickly, that we'll be seeing something happen down there. But yeah. That's neither here nor there. Right now we're talking about Newark, New Jersey. Main event is Anthony Johnson versus Ryan Bader, but the co-main event, which we're going to break down first, is Barnett versus Ben Rothwell. Because UFC 196 got decimated with Velasquez getting hurt and then Verdum getting Stipe Miocic as a replacement, and then Verdum saying, "Hey, look, I'm too hurt to fight now. But if Kane was here, I would have fought anyway because I fought him last time I was hurt. Because of Stipe, though, I really don't want to fight a guy that's hurt because I'm 38." Blah, blah, blah. I'm scared of Stipe is basically all I heard. Barnett was rumored to make the jump over to help out the card. He was down for it. He's ranked 8th, though, right now, according to the ranking system. And Ben Rothwell is ranked 7th. So it's like, to me, that threw me off. I thought for sure Barnett would be ahead of Rothwell. But really these guys are just inside the top 10, not really into the top 5. Is this heavyweight matchup exciting for you? And before we get into that, I actually have Josh win this fight. From a betting lineup. I figured Josh would, but now that I've seen the rankings, I feel like an idiot because I kind of feel like I'm behind the curve on this one.
Well, the rankings you could almost toss out the window anyway, honestly. I mean, a lot of times some of those rankings are ridiculous that you see on UFC.com sometimes, the way, some of the media members rank them out there. So there's definitely some good people that vote and know what they're doing and are putting in their 2 cents for sure. But then there's a lot of people, I think, that are in the UFC rankings that are clueless of what's really going on and, how they should rank. So I kind of have to throw that stuff out the window. But as far as the betting favorite, you're absolutely right. Barnett is a slight favorite coming into this fight. He's minus 135 right now. Rothwell's plus 115. So Rothwell is the underdog. The line opened a little bit higher, and the action has come in a little bit more on Rothwell, though, thus far. And I kind of agree with the action because it's one of those fights right now that you see. I mean, Barnett's been around the sport for a long time. I mean, both of these guys have, right? I mean, even Rothwell has been around for a long time. So you have true veterans of the sport. And in my opinion, right now, they're probably the best they've ever been. I mean, the age factor coming into play here, of course, they're both getting a little bit older. But I think more so than not, it's kind of affected Barnett more than it has Rothwell. I mean, what we've seen from Rothwell recently is, I mean, he's in better shape. He's got that hunger. He's got the drive. He's actually being very outspoken about getting in there and fighting the best there is. So you got to credit him with that. And I mean, his performances have been a little bit better as well. But Barnett, you can never count the guy out. And I mean, as far as skill set goes, he's got obviously the advantage on the ground. I mean, his submission grappling is outstanding. You know, it's very hard to deal with. But Rothwell has some decent sub defense. So the matchup should be very competitive, to be honest with you. I think it'll go back and forth.
You know, the one thing I do like about UFC.com, when they do the breakdowns, the rankings are screwed up, but then underneath it, they kind of give you a breakdown. KO versus TKO, Josh is only at 29%, Ben is at 77%. Then subs, 53% for Josh, and Ben goes down to 14%. So you're looking at these, you know, obviously back again, we're looking at a guy, if Josh wants to win this, he needs to get it on the ground. And if Ben wants to win this, he needs to keep it on the feet. In theory, okay, so let's say this stays on the feet the entire time. Is Josh really that far behind Ben in the striking game?
No, he's not. I mean, he's a pretty technical striker in his own right. He can definitely land with some power. He's a very educated, obviously, with all the experience. I mean, he's a very smart, savvy fighter. He's got great IQ, so he's not that far behind. He'll be competitive. But honestly, pure knockout power right now, I think you do got to give the edge to Rothwell. I really do. I think his chin's a little bit better right now as well. So if it does stay up on the feet, I do favor Rothwell in a striking exchange because I trust his chin just a little bit more than I do Barnett's right now. And I think that he could get better, you know, and as far as when they trade shots, I think he's going to be the one landing a little bit more effectively. So if Josh cannot get this to the floor, I think it does lean the advantage definitely to Rothwell.
Okay, so I've obviously said I'm going to take Josh, and he's the favorite though. But from a line standpoint, it's not really good money for me to jump that way. So shall I leave this one alone, or is this one where it's okay to take a small stab at Josh?
No, I think it's okay to take a small shot at the underdog here in Rothwell, to be honest with you, at the plus money, because it is kind of a coin flip type of fight. I really see at this point, again, because I do think Rothwell will be able to keep it upright. And I think if it hits the scorecards, especially with the state of MMA judging, we say all the time, competitive fights, you just never know which way to go. And I would not want to be the one laying juice on a fight like that if it does hit the scorecards. And I also think if it does end up, if there's a finish along the way, I think it probably will be Rothwell maybe landing that knockout punch. And I mean, both of these guys right now are talking good talk. I mean, even Barnett, like you said, he wanted to step in and face Stipe for the title, you know, for the interim title at least. You know, he offered his services there. So they're both hungry to get that gold. They're both hungry to get that extra, you know, cash that comes along with all that stuff as well. So this is a good fight. At this point of their careers, I think it's a well-matched fight. But I do lean towards the underdog just a little bit.
So that being said, now you changed my mind. I'm still taking Josh to win the fight, but money-wise, I got to put it on Ben Rothwell. That's just where my money has to go. I don't have a choice otherwise because, you know, who wants to lose money on these fights right now? But then Johnson and Bader, for me, is a tougher fight to pick, which is the main event. I'm having a real hard time with this one. Johnson's doing much better now that he's up a weight class. He's not sitting down and trying to cut so much weight. He tends to be a lot smarter, a lot quicker, a lot more explosive. But Bader, he finds a way to win a lot of times. Now, of course, the rankings have Anthony at 2 and Bader is at 4. So the quick look, everyone goes, oh, obviously it's going to be Johnson to be the favorite. But where's the line right now?
He is actually. It's steep favorite, too. He's around -3-1. He's -310, I believe, and the comeback is +255. So Anthony Johnson's -310, and the underdog Bader is at +255. So decent odds. I mean, if you look at it right now, wrestling is the big factor here for Bader. I mean, he wants to get this fight to the ground. He doesn't want to stand and bang with Anthony Johnson. I mean, the guy's a killer on the feet. It seems like he knocks everybody out. He's got that kind of special knockout power. I mean, look at Daniel Cormier in that title fight. Really, I don't know how Cormier withstood some of the punishment he took, but he did. He got rocked in that fight. It just credit to Cormier for having such a great chin, because most people in the weight class would have not been able to take those shots that he took from Anthony Johnson. But the problem here is how much trust do you really have if Bader can survive the early rounds here in round 1, round 2, because it especially in a hard fought fight where Bader is definitely going to be looking for takedowns. So Anthony Johnson's going to have to push himself to try to keep Bader off of him, to try to keep upright as well and try to land those shots along the way. So, I mean, in a strenuous fight like that, it seems like Anthony Johnson does tend to fade along the way, and Bader obviously is going to look to submit him, take his back. I mean, if you're going to submit Anthony Johnson, you basically take his back and sink in the rear naked choke. I think that's what he's going to look to do. And I think if after it goes past round 1, if it makes it that far, there's a good chance that Bader might steal this fight. So it's really that tough spot right now for me is either Anthony Johnson's going to win this thing in dynamic fashion like he typically does, or Bader's going to sneak up on everybody and pull off the upset win by, again, taking his back and submitting him along the way. If it goes to scorecards, I doubt it goes to scorecards, to be honest with you. I mean, both these guys have finishing capabilities because you really can't count Bader out either. I mean, he's got some knockout power in the feet. I don't think it's a good idea for him to go that route with Anthony Johnson. I mean, during exchanges, Anthony Johnson's just a beast. So I expect Johnson to win by knockout.
I'm looking at the stats for these guys. Obviously, KO, TKO is the big gap, with 70% for Johnson and 33% for Bader. But then you look at subs. I didn't realize that Bader subs 14% of the time, and Johnson doesn't sub at all. He's never subbed anybody. So it's like, well, how is that possible? Well, it's because he hits them so hard. There's no reason to sub him when they're passed out already. He's just one of those guys. Height's the same, weight's the same, obviously. Reach is 4 inches more for Johnson with that amazing, tremendous power. Does reach really factor in when you're laying these lines out? Like, you have to think about a heavy striker like Johnson versus a guy like Bader. When you're making a line, you go, wow, reach is like the 4-inch reach could be a big factor.
4 inches is kind of borderline, but it does play an impact role for sure. I mean, you got to look at that stuff. If you have a striker that has a reach advantage to go along with it and a guy on the other side of it, because let's face it, Bader does have somewhat of a suspect chin as well. I mean, if he had a solid chin, if he had a Cormier type of chin, then of course he'd be game and the line would be a lot tighter. But the truth is, I mean, Bader's been knocked out before, and now he's facing one of the hardest hitters he's ever faced. So, I mean, common sense says, again, Anthony Johnson's wrestling is a tad bit underrated as well. I mean, offensively, he could even get some takedowns. I know Bader has a pedigree as far as wrestling goes in this matchup, but man, I mean, Anthony Johnson has looked great, minus when he tires and he gets, in those kind of hard fought battles. Like, I mean, a good example is Daniel Cormier. I mean, Cormier is a special fighter, so it's a different circumstance here, but not saying that taking anything away from Bader, because his run recently has been really impressive. I mean, Bader deserves to be in this spot. He deserves to be in the mix for the title shot because he is definitely one of the best. But, I mean, is he going to bite off more than he could chew with Anthony Johnson here? I think he probably does.
Okay. Well, so this another one's a dog or pass situation?
Yeah, you can't bet this fight. You can't lay 3-1, honestly. I mean, I do think that Anthony Johnson knocks him out, but are you really going to lay 3 times? You know what I mean? Your cash there for it? I don't think so. I think it is a dog or pass situation. And for me, right now at least, it's a pass situation. I'm not going to take a stab at that fight. I'll just let it go and enjoy it. And I'm sure one of these guys is going to get a finish, so it should be a fairly exciting fight.
And that's kind of what I went with, too, in the beginning. I was like, I'm having a really hard time picking this fight. It's so close for me. When it gets to like that, in my opinion, if I'm looking at this fight, it's like just leave it alone then at that point because I can't catch up. I'm just not going to catch my money, and I'm going to be chasing something that just won't be there at the end of the night.
Yeah, there's a good chance that's it. I mean, wasting some cash on Bader. But, I mean, if he pulls off the upset win, obviously the people that take him, I mean, credit them for sure. I mean, it's a possibility. It's not out of the realm of him pulling off the upset win here, especially with his confidence right now. He knows what Johnson's going to bring to the table as well. Obviously, he knows what kind of game plan he's going to have to use. Now, can he be effective and really come through with it? I'm not sure. That's where the sketchy part is for me.
All right, well, there you have it. This is another edition of Before the Bell here on MMA Oddsbreaker. Good luck with your bets. We'll see you next week.